Welcome to this episode of Author Eke. I'm Travis Davis, your host. Tell us your story. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Author Eke. I have Jack Guest here today. Him and I are both with the same publisher, Defiance Press and Publishing. And he's going to talk about his book. So I'll let Jack kind of introduce himself, and then we're going to just kind of have a free flow conversation and see where it goes, because in Author Eke, you have no idea where it's going to go. So tell us your story, Jack.
Okay, well, what there is to tell, I'll keep the condensed version. I grew up in Wyoming, the high plains of Wyoming. I did the Wyoming thing, worked on ranches. I quit high school at a pretty young age. I read Friedrich Nietzsche unsupervised when I was like 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And so I misinterpreted it to a large extent, and it ruined my life for about 15 years. So I quit high school, did some ne'er-do-well stuff for a while, moved down to the desert Southwest, realized I was going nowhere fast. It couldn't end anywhere good. So I hightailed it back to Wyoming and enrolled in college, where I always grew up. I grew up out on the high plains of Wyoming. So in the winters, it's tough. It's brutal. So mm-hmm. There's a lot of time to read. I was in one of those households. It was a small house, and the TV was in the living room, and the old man was always in there, and we really didn't have cable or anything. So I read a lot. I fell in love with reading at a young age. And so I decided I'd pursue that in college. So I studied literature and philosophy. Then I've decided I was going to be a writer. And I never really thought nobody told me that it was impractical or the starving artist story or anything. So I just decided, okay, start writing, and pretty soon everything's going to be good. So I went to graduate school up in Fairbanks, Alaska, mostly because it was Fairbanks, Alaska. And
you like the cold. You like the cold.
Not anymore. I'm in New Mexico now.
Oh, okay.
It's still the West, but further south. So yes. And so I started writing, and then I fell into. I moved down to New Mexico because a guy in graduate school told me to hike the Gila Wilderness area, and I'm a big hiker, backpacker. So I came down there, and I landed a job at the local university, adjuncting. Soon enough, I sucked into that. And I ended up a tenured professor there, and got sucked into the whole college thing, which is, you get caught up in your life and you don't realize just how political a college is until I could stick to myself to a large extent and do my own thing until I had to be department chair. I was elected department chair sort of against my will. And I realized what a mess it was, boy. It was a terrible thing. I hadn't been writing much. I have published lots of essays and short stories and stuff like that, but I hadn't written a novel. And that's what I really wanted to do. I want to be a writer. So I got out of that game after a long time. It sort of sucked the soul out of me to an extent. But I just started freelancing, and I still teach, adjunct creative writing classes here and there. And I freelance write, and I make ends meet. But I've given myself over to writing pretty heavy, and so that's where this latest novel, of my trilogy, my first novel in my trilogy, comes from. Excellent. So that's about me.
Excellent. Well, I quit high school too at the age of 17 years old.
Yeah,
because I thought I knew everything, and evidently I didn't. That was on I think a Thursday or a Friday, and Tuesday I was in basic training in the Army.
Wow.
Where I spent, around 20 years in the Army. So kind of a different route, but I hated reading. And then when I got in the Army, you have to read manuals. So I just started getting around. The first book that I remember really reading was The World According to Garp.
Yeah.
So I didn't pick See Jane Run, Run Dick Run. I picked a massive book to read. So that's kind of the way I did it. And I never, up until March of 2022, I would never envision myself of writing anything other than a short email. Even though I did tech editing for Q Publishing on their Microsoft engineering books back in the day, and did help write a technical book, Windows 2000 Security Handbook. So, but I never really was, wanting to write. So it just kind of came to me. So, what gave you the inspiration for your trilogy? I mean, when you write for other people, they kind of give you what you want to write about, or a short story, but a novel is a little different because it has a certain word count, and so instead of one, you're thinking of a trilogy.
Yeah, trilogies. I think because I didn't want it to get too long, and I knew I couldn't tell it in one novel length thing that would be sort of digestible. Two, from a marketing standpoint, publishers like trilogies because you can, even if the first one doesn't do real well, you can build a customer base, do book giveaways, things like that, and you could get a reader base, and then that more will pick up two, and those who pick up two will go back and pick up one, and it sort of keeps feeding off of itself.
Exactly.
But I'm not a writer for that reason, and that's probably a downfall for many writers is they don't consider themselves very good marketers, and I'm not the world's that my mind doesn't work that way the way it should. I want to write, and this story is a big story. It's sort of a rollicking sort of sci-fi dystopian political, the envisioning of a world. And I like to do it just because when you get immersed in writing, you get immersed in another world. And you wrote, I think you could, I told you I studied a lot of philosophy in college and even graduate school. And I think fiction can get it, the big ideas better than anything else, better than poetry. I'm talking novels, better than poetry, better than philosophy, better than psychology, better than sociology. I think novels can get to the human part of things. And that's why I think novelists and creative writers in general are kind of safe from the new threat of AI.
Right.
I've looked at it a little bit, and I've read some AI generated stuff, and I've had some students. I still teach at graduate level creative writing courses, and I can tell it's real easy to see when a student's trying to use AI on you because AI won't ever be able to understand the human heart, and neither will
feeling. There's no feeling in it. There's no emotion. It's just words put together to sound good.
And they, they can use their algorithms and stuff to try to manipulate people's psychology. But I'm telling you, it doesn't ring quite right. And people are going to we're still humans for now.
Right. Oh yeah.
Thank goodness. So I think creative writing still has a very important role to play in society. Even though too, I went with Defiance Press because it's tough out there. Everything's so politicized, and the big publishing world is very politically to the left. And although my books, it's not blatantly political or anything, but it's definitely has a conservative vein in it, and you're not going to get picked up by anywhere else. And Defiance Press sort of is a niche place that for people like me who just want to write but don't want to just want to write what they want and not try to shape it to a specific audience, just be natural.
Yeah, I tell you. So my experience was, so I wrote, I sat down March the 2nd and started writing Flames of Deception, and I finished in late April.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Then, so I looked around because, hey, I didn't know anything about self-publishing. I didn't want to waste a bunch of money. And so I looked around and I said, okay, I want to, you look at Random House, you look at Penguin or whatever, right? You're not going to get in there. So I looked at a local publisher, right? And then I found a couple, and I reached out to Defiance Press, sent them the manuscript. They got back to it, and they really liked it because that was what they want to kind of do, the genre and, the kind of the books that I'm writing. And I deal in technology. I did that for the last 25 years when I got out of the Army. I'm like, I don't believe everything on the internet, right?
That's pretty good.
Because I can create a nice website that has nothing behind it. So I said, okay, well, I'll do some work in Houston, and they're just north of Houston and Conroe. I said, hey, but how about if I stop by and meet you guys? Right? I mean, we're entering into, I'm giving you my thoughts and the rights, basically my books. They said, okay. So I went in there, and they gave me the address, and I've passed this place before. I go, man, this is just beautiful the way this laid out on this, So I gave me the address. Wow, this is what I was saying was always been beautiful. So I went in there and met Dave and Mark in person, and just, okay, you know what? These are my kind of people. I like the artwork that they've commissioned is amazing. Their headquarters is amazing.
Wow.
And I just like them personally. So I said, okay, I'm good. Then that's why I kind of went with Defiance Press. But you did strike on something that I think a lot of authors don't realize when they do write a book or thinking about writing a book is the marketing is so key, right? And it's not like, when Tom Clancy wrote, Flames, Hunt for Red October, It's a little more difficult now because there's so many books being generated and so many books on Amazon every week. So how do you find that niche? So marketing is cool, whether it's through Goodreads or is it through Amazon or through social media or whatever, right? That's what you got to do. So what have you found, or how are you going to market your books? Through social media, Twitter, TikTok, or what?
I'm trying a little bit of everything, and my plan is this, and it seems to be going fairly good. It's at Defiant. I really liked the guys at Defiance Press too. I mean, so I hit it off with them right off the bat. So I got to talking to them, and they said don't expect anything too quickly, but they too said it's good that it's a trilogy because you can build on that over time. So I try to do like one thing a day. Like I'm going to try, I think, Amazon ads, because you can keep you're not going to go broke. You're not going to break the bank. You can control exactly how much you spend.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't overbid. I've read a couple books on them. Don't overbid. I mean, you're just spending money for no reason. And just stick with it. Just stick with that. I try to get in podcasts like yours helps. Every little tiny bitty thing helps. I do social media. I'm building up a Facebook. I've had a fairly extensive LinkedIn thing. I've gotten some reviews. I've been in the writing game for a while, so I knew some outlets where I could get pretty good reviews and things like that. And so what I try to do, because you can't get, I've got other things to do, and so does everybody else, and it can be totally overwhelming, is I try to do just one thing a day to market the book. And so like today I'm doing this, there's a book of the month giveaway on Reader's Favorite, which I did get some reviews from them. And they're fairly decent, and they get a little bit of movement, but you can do a book of a month. So that you just slowly get the word out and keep immersing, because like you said, just a young writer that's out there, or anybody that's just starting out in it, might be under the sort of the deception that you can just go get an agent or something and you don't have to worry about that. Well, agents aren't going to look at you unless you're already known.
Right.
Because they're just trying to make money. So if they'll this person's known, I'll offer to I'll promote their books. It isn't. It's a weird, where there's a lot of books out there. So how do you get yours to stand out? First of all, you have to write a good book. I mean, everybody's going to tell you that. If you don't have a good book, a good story, then nothing's going to happen with it. Next, you just have to be persistent and be in for the long haul, I think, is the big thing. Don't expect overnight success or anything like that. If you get it, good for you, but it's not generally does it go that way.
Right.
If you're going to be a writer, you do it for the love of being a writer, basically, and hope for the best.
Yeah, I found out, I've always had an imagination, a good sense of humor, and I found writing allows me to put that out there. My wife says, how do you come up with this stuff? And I just think of something and I just put the thought through all the way to the end. Right. And then how do I build on that? Because I don't outline. I just write. Where a lot, folks outline stuff. I just kind of write. But you're right. I mean, the marketing is key. And I will tell folks that, once, like for LinkedIn, for example, once you say that you've written a book and you put it out there, you're going to have requests from, I did not know Nigeria had so many book marketing people. The fine people of Nigeria, don't get me wrong, but they're going to be people at the woodwork trying to help you promote your book that you have no idea. I get calls from folks and we want to help promote your book and everything. I said, well, tell me about it. They can't tell me about my book.
Yeah,
or yeah, we do this and it's only $4,500. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not doing that. Right. So be leery of false prophets.
Don't believe everything on the internet, because there's a lot of scams. In fact, don't believe almost nothing on the internet unless you just triple check it.
I don't even believe the video these days because of the AI. So tell us about your book. I'm interested. Or your trilogy, your first one. Is it out?
It's out. The first book's out, and I'm working on the second one. It just came out at the very end of March, so it hasn't been out very long yet. It's I kind of got messed up on the release date, so I didn't send out any pre-review copies. So I'm still in the process of getting the reviews in.
Mhm.
which are all coming in pretty good. And it's set in the Southwest, American Southwest, but it's in the future. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic, uh, dark sci-fi novel where there's
Mhm.
system versus the individual, basically. And
Okay.
it's sort of, it has some religious undertones, spiritual undertones, political undertones. Uh, it's starting to get some reviews on Amazon, and those are always nice to get because you don't know who these people are. I just got one from a person that's in their review, invite only review people on the
Mhm.
Vine Voice, and
Mhm.
she gave it a really pretty good 5-star.
Oh, nice.
Uh, I mean, she said some pretty flattering things about it. So I'm fairly confident in my writing, but the challenge really is to get it out there when there's Kindle, self-publishing, and everything else. How do you get it to stand out? And I haven't solved that problem, to tell you the
Right.
truth. And I don't
Yeah.
think many have, because I'm not made out of money. I can't just go. And like
Mhm.
you're saying, a lot of I've read of a lot of scams where people give up a lot of money and nothing happens anyway. That people just take your money and
Yeah.
and maybe sell a few copies here and there.
Right.
But uh, anybody that's into sort of a, one review said the novel was it's sort of a sci-fi fantasy dystopia that turns all three of those genres upon their head.
Oh,
So
nice.
so it's worth the read, and everybody's liking. I'm pretty confident in my writing and
Mhm.
ability. If I could just get people to the title known a little bit, which is the challenge. That is probably the challenge of many authors out there everywhere. But you said something important as well. You have to stick with it. That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing that most writers, I've taught many graduate and several graduate programs, many students over the years. And the number one thing that happens to them when they get out of that program or whatever, and they're not forced to write, they don't write anymore because it's real easy to let life get in the way.
Mhm.
But if you could just set out an hour a day and be consistent about it, 5 days a week in the same place,
Yeah.
you'd be
Yeah.
surprised how much you could get written in that in a fairly short amount of time. As you know, you whipped
Yep.
out your first.
Right. Yeah, that's what so I do. I like to walk in the morning, right? When I get done walking, I'm like, okay. And it's in the summertime, sit in the backyard, relax, bring the laptop out there and listen to music and type and just, and just go to town where I'll crank out. I've started my third novel 4 or 5 times and I didn't like the beginning. So I had an idea the other day. I go, well, what about this? Because I use the same team. They're independently, but it's the same team. It's a series of books. And I'm like, okay, I like this one. So I think since Saturday, I've cranked out, close to 4,000 words
Mm-hmm.
because I'll sit there and I'll just write until I'm like, okay, I'm done. Or in the evening, I'll say, okay, I want to do a little bit. Or I do a lot of research for my books. I do a tremendous amount because I want somebody to say, okay, oh, let me check this place out because it's even possible. Or these things exist. And I come up with technology that I'm surprised I haven't been visited yet, right? Because satellite imagery and a bunch of other stuff. So that's interesting. But I like what you said. You have to, everybody has a writer's block or a time they don't. If you don't feel like writing, don't write. But when you feel like writing, knock it out. I mean, that's good quality time. Um, try to have a date. I like to work back from a date where I want to put a book out every May. So what's that mean? That means I've got to get to the publisher by November or
Mm-hmm.
October. So okay, now I've got from now until October to get the manuscript done the way that I want it. So we're backward planning, right? That's an army thing, I think, but that's what I do. Um, so show us the cover. I'm interested.
Here's the cover of it. Can you see it? I got it up there
There,
properly.
perfect. Yeah, yep. The Yawberry Way, right?
Yeah, I think that I was very happy with the production process at
Oh
Defiance
yeah.
Press. They did a really good job. And I had this like killer editor. I mean, this guy was good, and
Right.
he was didn't pull punches. He was civil, but he didn't pull any punches. And I got the audio book on it as well, and the narrator was really good. I mean, it was just all around very well done. It's a good product, and uh, they're working on different ways to help you get it out
Mm-hmm.
through social media. Goodreads is a good place to go to try to market your book. And like I said, I think it's a matter of persistence more than
Yes.
sudden success or anything. I think you just keep at it, be sort of dogged at it, and you'll get it done. It's just like we were talking about the writing process. I don't really believe in writer's block, but I think that you should sit down and write anyway. And you'll find, at least I have in my life, is some of the days that you're sort of manic and you're having, oh boy, this is the best stuff I've ever written. It's not really your best stuff when you go back. But sometimes you struggled to get a page out for, an hour and a half. And you go back to it and you go, damn, that's really pretty good stuff.
Good.
That's it.
Oh yeah. And so I continually go back and read what I wrote to try to make sure it's right. But and so, some of the things from marketing that because I have sort of a marketing technology background, so I say, well, I have to think outside of the box because everybody do the same kind of thing. So what I've done is there's a program through Kroger that you can do book signings in Kroger at certain Krogers. So I'll go there and I'll sell 10, 15 books. And I'm thinking, selling 15 books in a bookstore in one day, that's pretty darn good.
It is. And you're building a readership. And that's the most important thing, because it's really all about name recognition.
Yes.
So how do you get name recognition? You do exactly what you're doing, one step at a time. 15 here, 20 here, 10 here.
Exactly.
That builds up.
So I do book signings, and what I put places in my books that actually exist. So I reach out to those places and say, hey, you're in my book. How about a book signing?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we've never done one. Right. I've done Northern Virginia. Hope to do one in California. I'm doing another one in Northern Virginia. And then I also reached out to the public library and said, hey, you guys do anything for local authors? They have an author on stage. So I just presented there the other day. Right. Or farmers markets. I mean, you like you said, it's getting the name out there. It's branding you or your characters.
Yep.
Right. Like I have Team Texarkana, so I brand that. So it has a persona. So again, marketing, but you said pick out one thing a day, do it, and then check up on it.
Yep. Right. Just be consistent. You always
keywords,
check back on
right? Keywords. You can change your keywords, right? Just I use Pocket Rocket, and it helps me figure out what keywords should I use which one don't even matter, right?
Have you tried Amazon ads?
I have them going right now, but I didn't. Like you said, I did not put like $15 an ad or $2 an ad, or I'm not going to do that, right? But yeah.
I read a couple books on it, and the going price. This one guy said, and I think he's given pretty sound advice. Yeah. He said for a trilogy, don't go 36 cents. That's it. Don't go any higher than that, because that's not the only thing that will get you that works on your algorithm too. And it's books that are similar to yours, context, big time context. If that works in the algorithms, it'll get more and more hits. So
and interesting. That's good. I didn't know that.
And you can cap how much you spend. That's what I like about it.
Oh, I do. I mean, I've used Facebook ads. Not overly impressed with those. I mean, to be honest with you.
Well, see, at least in Amazon, people are looking for books. So
exactly.
You've got people looking at books. Yeah.
Exactly. I haven't done any Twitter ads. I don't think they'd be very successful. LinkedIn, won't do any ads on that. I have enough folks on LinkedIn. But Goodreads and some of the other one that you said might be an opportunity. I have yet, and it's to my demise, that I haven't sent any copies out for people to review. I don't know who to send them to. So I'm sending them to Tom. Be dead, but Tom Clancy, or do I send them to Glenn Beck, or do I send them to whoever? Do I send these books to for their review, because they're busy.
Those big names probably are not much of a chance, again, unless you already have a name. Yeah. But you could look for other authors, just to get it on, and that helps as well. And actually at Defiance Press, you could just get in their loops, and we can review each other's books and see how. The thing I like about people you don't know reading your book is because they don't know you.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and I know people that read my books that know me and will tear me apart.
Or not, or go, oh, that was the greatest book I ever read.
Yeah.
But you need objective opinions on to see where you're going wrong, so you can correct it if you need to, or what you're doing good, so you realize that
Exactly.
yeah, maybe I have some talent, so I'll just keep on slogging along.
So where can we find your book?
It's at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It's in probably, and you could get it at any bookstore. They can order it. I mean, Defiance, I think, uses Ingram. I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yep.
So that's the big one. So that any bookstore can order it. I mean, you can put out flyers in bookstores, and if that's another idea for authors. If you live in a town or a city of any size, you can go around to the bookstores and say, I'm a local author. You got a local author shelf? And they'll take their cut, of course. But again, it's about building the name. That's especially when you're just starting out.
Yeah, I'm doing. So I follow Jack Carr on Twitter, and he's being in Dallas or somewhere at Half Price Books. I'm like, oh, why can't I do that? So I call Half Price Books their flagship store down in Dallas, or the big one. And they go, yeah, every Sunday we have local authors come in for 2 or 3 hours and plug your wares and sell your books. She said, when do you want to do it? I said, well, okay, I'll do it the 25th of June. She said, well, send me a flyer and we'll put it out there. Right. So
excellent.
Think about, or these indie bookstores, right? I mean,
yeah,
pop in and say hello. A lot of times they won't even take a cut. Right. So I think it's really, going out there and local newspaper, right? Reach out to a local newspaper to try to get yourself out there where people can see you, to know what you're doing. And you're right. I'm hoping, okay, I have 2 books out. If somebody, didn't buy the first, they buy the second, they go, oh, because I want to know more about how this thing even start, how this thing even start.
That's how it works, and then when you write your third, people go back and read the first and the second, and it just sort of builds on itself. So it really is about you have to think along those terms. And I think the sort of independent authors like us it's designed for like independent bookstores, the people that are still out there. The beauty of it is people still love a good story.
Yes.
That's just part of being a human being, and it's not going to go away anytime soon, no matter how flooded the market gets.
Yes.
So there's lots of opportunity out there for writers, because people still are looking for good stories, and there's all kinds of platforms you can publish on. But there's so much out there. How do you get noticed? And again, I would say make sure you have a really good product. I'm like you. I don't outline my books very anally. I sort of have an idea where it's going, where it'll end, and where it starts.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe how it gets there, but I learn as much. I enjoy writing because I find out where the story's going. Once you get into it far enough, your characters will go, I won't say that.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing. Yeah. And so you become sort of just part of the process, and the story is the story. So that's a cool part about being a writer. You get.
And the hardest thing I think is killing them off. Like, I can't kill this person.
I was notorious though when I was in graduate school. I killed all my characters at the end. I think it's because I couldn't let them go. I go, well, I can't imagine them living without me to guide them. And so
let me knock them off.
My thesis advisors were saying, "Hey, Gist, don't kill anybody. Try not to kill anybody in your." I'm better at that now.
Well, Jack, it's been a pleasure. Meeting you and talking to you. I learned a ton on this call. I'll tell you.
Well, I think we're it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So, folks, let's see your book again. Let's put that plug in. That's important. Go out and get it.
Yewberry Way.
Go out and get it.
Is book 1 prayer.
You're gonna get it. It's gonna be a trilogy. So when you get done with it, you have to be waiting for the other one.
Yep. And
put it on the list of things to look at. But hey, summer reading, folks. What else you gonna do? All right, Jack. It's been fantastic, and I look forward to talking to you again when the second one comes out.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to Author Etiquette. There'll be another episode next week. Please stop by and start your own story. We can't wait to hear it.